friends, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a special little speed build for our dearest Alice, who we just welcomed to the valley for this current update. I hope you guys can get inspired by this speed build to build a small and cozy corner for Alice in your valley. I am building it today in the Plaza Floating Island, but this build can be applied anywhere else, such as the Plaza, Peaceful Meadow, or wherever you want her. I also decided to combine some of the more fairy core items from the Wonderland Whimsy Starpath, so this build will have a combination of both the fairy and Wonderland magic of this Starpath. Hope you guys can enjoy the speed build, and let's begin. Starting off, we have Alice's house placed right here in the center, and we are going to begin our winding path. Now, I actually do have a video to show you. It is a little tutorial on how to make a winding path. It has a beginner section where it goes from a straight line, point A to point B, but then we also have a more intermediate tutorial on how to make it kind of go in all different directions. It's a fun little video if you would like to watch it, but it is pretty important for the speed build because I do make quite a bit winding paths. So I can also just show you right now how I'm doing it, but if you would like to have a more detailed explanation as to why I do it, then definitely feel free to go check out that video. I will link it in the description and in the video. So what I am doing is I am making a winding path that kind of goes in several different directions, and you'll see later on I also make it kind of connect into a roundabout, which is actually not in the other video, but I am planning to expand my pathing tutorials a bit more, so you will see that there. But it's very simple, and I will show you how I did that. So I have the winding path going towards the left, and then I'm going to also make one go straight down, and you will see that it kind of starts to look a little more seamless. Now you can of course keep the path just as it is, but you will see later that I actually add some stuff to make the path a little extra. And here was when I realized that I can actually just make a roundabout because I already had 2/3 of it done. So there's me doing that, except it's just a little more eyeballing. So once I got my path, I used these cobblestones, and you can get them from Scrooge's, and you can use as many as you would like. Now keep in mind that in a floating island, you don't really have much of an item limit, so it's definitely okay to use a lot more. However, if you plan on replicating this in your valley, I would kind of suggest to space it out more and not to have it so close together, otherwise you will run out of item space unless you are one of the lucky ones who has that big item limit. But definitely it's fine to experiment and also reduce where it's needed. You're gonna see I actually use a lot of different items per se to make a more fluffy of a build, but you can of course just reduce the item limit. So I'm kind of just spacing it out, and what you're gonna notice is that there is a lot of empty space with the pathing. Unfortunately, we do not have curved paths yet, but I'm assuming whenever we do get them, we won't have this issue. But for now, I'm going to use these mome wraps that we also get from Scrooge, also new to this update. And all I'm doing is I am just filling out some extra space with these mome wraps. And I mostly kind of put them in the borders where there is empty space, but sometimes I will put them on top of the stones just to kind of add some texture. So once I have my pathing done, I can start on the smaller parts of my build. And my thought process here was that I just kind of had a couple ideas that I know I wanted in the build, but wasn't sure of the placement, so I was kind of going with the flow. So I did know that when I had my roundabout made, I was going to definitely make a centerpiece, because why not? So I used this new fountain, which I absolutely adore, from the Starpath, and a couple of those floral wheelbarrows. And this is where I start to fluff it up with some of that beach grass. And then over here in this little crevice, I found out that this beautiful gazebo fit right underneath. And these are more of the fairy core items that I was talking about. And of course, this Agrabah chair, I mean, I know it's Agrabah, but it kind of looks whimsical in that funny way. So I kind of just decorate this little seating area, which I knew I wanted, and then fluff it up with some more grass and later on some flowers. terms of what trees I use a lot of these cypress trees, as well as some of the more trees that are native to the valley, such as like the big green ones. And I knew I wanted to have a variety of trees, but not too much of a variety. So you will see like the birch ones and very little bit of the cherry blossom ones. But overall, I kind of keep a pink and green color scheme, as that is pretty prevalent in not only just the Starpath items, but also just the surrounding area. So I like to decorate the pathing on the sides with some of these teacups, and these are free and they are from the Alice in Wonderland realm. So definitely be sure to open all your chests. And these purple ones are actually from Storybook Vale. You have to unlock it by doing the puzzles with the lore keeper, and it's a pretty good item. And I also use some of these bigger teapots that are in Scrooge's. Here I know I wanted to have a little picnic area, so I'm just kind of getting started on that, but I won't finish that just quite yet. And of course adding more teapots. And these, what are they called? The windmills, they're from Storybook Vale. I think they're native to Mythopia. These are really beautiful, and I thought it really matched Alice's house really well. And you know me, I cannot resist using a couple of those Vitalis mine lamps. They're just too good. I use a bunch of these trees and these bushes, and a couple of my other videos you'll see that I always look in the front before finalizing anything. I like to make sure everything looks good from the front before moving on, so I'm just kind of using a bunch of these trees. There are two kinds. These are very similar, but one's like a darker green and one's more yellow. And then I kind of put in some more of these like windmills and the cypress trees. But yeah, overall keeping it very green, very lush. That is the goal. And then I'm kind of just starting to add some grass everywhere. I use both the tall beach grass and the meadow grass. I think just using those combined really gives it a lush look. I'm not trying to go for a completely overgrown look because someone does live here. I'm not really going for abandoned vibes, but I am going for like, you know, kind of grassy field, cozy vibes. So I try not to use too much, and you can definitely reduce it, as I said before. Here I just had a little filler area, so I just put a little mushroom circle because we gotta bring some Wonderland into here. I think I was doing too much fairy core here, and I know this is Alice's house, so bringing back some Wonderland. You're gonna see me buffer a lot. If you ever see like a really long space, that's just me like processing. I think one thing about my building style is I'm very like spatially aware. So if I see some gaps that are a little too spacey, I will kind of just try to fill in that space. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. This is a quest item from Alice. It's the unbirthday table, and I just kind of decorated it with like tea, cakes. You can put whatever you want there. And then I thought it would be cool to use like an assortment of chairs that are just like whimsical looking, colorful. And so I used some of those from Scrooge and the bind. So surrounding the unbirthday tea party, I'm going to be using a lot of these singing and talking flowers, and this is a combination of Scrooge and Realm and also Starpath. So these are the singing flowers, which by the way, the ones that are in threes, they actually scare me. They look really creepy, but we're going to move on from that. Just surrounding it with some more trees, more teapots. You can kind of see that there's a pattern with this build. There's a lot of the same items, and I hope this is a good learning moment that you can honestly just, it's kind of like, how do I explain this? Like you're trying to find as many words as you can to fill up the item, or not the item limit, the word limit of an essay. That's basically summing up this build. Like I am using the same like 5 items and just fluffing it up until it looks like big effort when really it's just not. I think I have all of my details set up, so now I'm just going in with the finer details. I decided to add these plumeria leaves and they look beautiful. They just look like little patches of flowers in the grass, and I think it just adds an extra touch. And again, just reiterating, I know people are gonna want to do this in their valleys, so just be mindful of the item limit. I just kind of use enough to fill up whatever empty space that I see. And then also using some of these butterfly flowers because I think it just fits the vibe. Just finishing up with some extra little details here and there, and this is where you kind of just see me move things around last minute, being very spatially aware. Like I said, I decided to just throw in some of these little cherry blossom ones because I thought it was looking a little too green and I kind of wanted to bring pink back, so it's all about the balance, guys. I tried to add some of these Vitalis Mind lamps here and there just to add a little extra glow, and then I switch over to sunset just to make sure everything looks lit so that everything looks good no matter what time of day you're in, and just adding some finishing touches, and this is pretty much the build. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and here I am just gonna be walking around, and yeah, I guess before we end the video and while you watch me walk around, I kind of wanted to talk about a couple of things. So first off, I apologize for not uploading a video sooner. I've been quite busy lately, and honestly, I will not lie to you guys, this is my third time building this house because I did it the first time realizing I didn't record it, and then the second time I recorded it, it just did not save, so I really knew how to do it by the third time around, and I'm glad because I actually got to add extra details that I didn't before. But here you guys can just see me walk around. I like to add a lot of these natural settings, and I think one thing that I want to talk about in a future video is why I decorate the way I do in terms of like making separate little areas and then just combining them into one. I think it's important that with every little area that you have in a build, you kind of create a little story with it, right? So for example, the gazebo, it's like, you know, this is probably where Alice will invite a friend to tea, or that picnic area is where she likes to read her books and nap because, you know, we see her do that in the beginning in the movie. And then of course the more obvious is the unbirthday table. That's where she will host her unbirthday parties. And I can talk about this a lot more in depth in another video, but yeah, I think it's just kind of helpful for people to know that if you just create little stories in the areas that you want, then it'll have a much better impact when you're decorating because then there's more meaning to it, as opposed to just placing items down and not really knowing why. It kind of just, I guess it's like going with the flow, right? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the build, and I hope you guys can give Alice a fun little home just like this. If you guys liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!